Nancy, thank you for being with us. If you would be so kind as to introduce anyone on your team that is here, and just in terms of sharing with us what it is you need to share, if you have asked for an increase, if you'll let us know how those additional funds would improve service, and in the absence of any increase of funding, how your department will sustain the level of service you're providing.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. With me tonight is Diana Atwood. She's our financial manager in the Department of General Services. And I'm going to go just straight to the budget improvements and talk a little bit about those, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. The first budget improvement on the at a glance page, you'll see $900,000 being requested for building operations. And some of you in this room have called me about weeds being high this year and about windows not being washed. We had, if you go back to about the last 5 years, we have brought on 24 new buildings, and in doing so over the years, we've requested funding for operational purposes, and some of those years were budget cut years, and so some of that was not approved. It's caught up with us, and we've had to, in January, we had to go in to our contractors and say, we need to save $1 million between now and the end of the year. So we have made those provisions, but in doing so, our customers are feeling it now. So this is to restore those dollars so that we can continue to at Bellevue Library, at Southeast Davidson Community Center, at all these wonderful places that we have that we can continue to do the landscaping and the window washing and those kinds of things that make not only people who work in those buildings, but the citizens who visit there to have a pleasant experience. So that's the main budget improvement you're going to be seeing. There's $114,000 for the county clerk. They had a mailing postage machine that they were leasing. They're no longer going to be leasing that, so they've asked us to pick up that cost, and so that money's being transferred into our budget. If you've not heard from ITS or Keith Durbin, he will also be talking about this, but the mayor had challenged us to look at business alignment within our departments. Radio communications has been in the Department of General Services since its inception. But over the years, technology has changed so much. If you look at the infrastructure side of radio communications, it's the towers, the programming. It made sense at this time to reconsider where that piece of radio communication was housed. So we're requesting that be transferred to the Department of ITS. There's a piece of that will stay in general services, and those are the installations where we install sirens and the equipment, but not do the programming. We also looked at another alignment issue around card access or security access, and the Department of Information and Technology Services, they were also providing this service. So again, we made the business decision to request that service go to ITS so that one department will be managing that. And then the rest of it is just internal service fees, so it's pretty straightforward what we're asking for, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Whittemore? Councilmember Henderson, hang on a minute. Let me get this right. Yeah, Councilmember Henderson, sorry.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Ms. Whittemore, for the viewing public and for we new council members, can you share with us, you mentioned libraries, but I know you do not maintain schools or parks facilities. Could you just do a rundown generally? Not every building, but in a general sense,
yes,
what
I'll
you
be
manage.
happy to do that. The Department of General Services, we're responsible for from construction and design and construction all the way through building maintenance of many facilities in metro government. We manage close to 100 buildings right now and over 4 million square feet of buildings, and then we have the ground maintenance that goes along with that. But it's mostly general government buildings, like in the downtown area. There's some departments departments, parks, some of the fire department, some of those that we do not manage. So it's around 4 million square feet that we manage. We also have in the Department of General Services fleet services, and that is we procure any vehicle or piece of equipment for Metro. We maintain that all the way through the disposal of that equipment. And then we have the radio communication, which that's a piece of that will be moving to ITS, or at least that's what we're proposing. And the other piece of that, the installs, will stay within General Services. We have currently, we have come up with a new division within General Services around sustainability, which makes perfect sense for our department because of all the things we do around sustainability and with not only our buildings, but our fleet and other things we do within the department.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Cooper, did you have a question?
Councilwoman Henderson asked my initial question, but if you would spend a moment on design and construction services, you all are responsible then for both the hiring of architects and of letting the construction contracts for new facilities?
Yes, most facilities in Metro, that is our responsibility. So once the funding is appropriated by council, then we go through the purchasing process, the procurement process, where a contractor, architect, those services are procured, and then we manage the construction, the project management of those projects. So it can range from a DNA lab to a fire hall to just a small project that, renovation or something. But yes, we do the design and the construction management of those projects.
And Metro being Metro, the carve-out, as Councilwoman Henderson was saying, that tends not to apply to parks or to the fire department buildings?
We manage we do the design and construction on the fire stations. We do not manage all the fire stations. As buildings have become LEED certified, we have picked up the management of those facilities just because you have to maintain that LEED certification, and that's where our expertise is, and sometimes departments don't have that level of expertise. So we're managing, I think, around 12 fire stations at this time.
So you're managing the 12 LEED certified fire stations. So if you're LEED certified, you all manage it, but otherwise not. And then in the Parks Department,
They manage all of their facilities, except for Southeast Davidson, and that was a joint venture project where we had the Preds, we had the library, and then we had the community center. So we are managing that particular facility.
For the Ford Ice Center,
Well, we're doing the library and the parks and the park community
and the parks
room.
there. Mm-hmm. And are there any other major carve-outs in Metro?
Well, there are some buildings like Health Department, Lentz,
Okay.
we're managing that one, but they have they have some other facilities that we're not managing. Public Works, we do not manage those facilities. The Sheriff's Department, we have not managed those.
But you would be responsible for the design and construction.
In some of them. Parks, we have not been except for the Southeast Davidson one.
Okay. But for the Sheriff's Department, for example, you would be responsible.
That's correct,
And for the
yes.
new criminal justice system, you would be responsible for the design
We are,
and construction.
yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Hager.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank y'all for being here. Now, as I understand, y'all do all the fleet management, is that correct?
That's correct.
And repairs. That includes the emergency vehicles as well, police vehicles and all that. Okay. This is where I hear the biggest concern, is at one time, the emergency vehicles were separated out from the regular vehicles. Is that correct? Is that my understanding?
At one time, fleet was not consolidated as it is today.
Okay. And what I hear complaints about is that when the emergency vehicles go in, it takes longer to get them out. Are they treated as a priority or not? But that's the complaints I'm hearing from a lot of the police and fire department.
Well, I'd be happy to share stats with you on what we're doing. Anytime public public safety is always a priority.
Right.
And of course, we have the challenge of balancing, getting water services and other things out to trash trucks, salt trucks. So, those are priorities depending on what time of the year it is. But I would be happy to share with you our response time and see what you think about that.
Yeah, because that's just what I'm getting feedback about. They said at one time these were separated out, and it may be a misnomer, but a lot of people are saying that they got the vehicles back quicker when they were separated out between emergency vehicles and the regular service vehicles that we use for other things. So that's why I wanted to ask how that all got consolidated to begin with. When it was done, I think it's been, 8 or 9 years ago?
It's been longer than that, but the consolidation, at the time, there was a study done, an assessment done of all the fleet vehicles, and our fleet was in really bad shape. And
Right.
so the recommendation was to consolidate, not only to have a plan, a metro-wide plan, but also to save money too. We feel like it's been very successful. Our fleet's in better shape than it's ever been. You all have appropriated money for the larger pieces of equipment, and there was a $15 million appropriation done about 2 years ago,
Right.
and so we've been working through that. So and then we're looking at another appropriation this year. So it's really staying up, as far as our replacement, and then maintaining them. But as we've grown, we've also looked at, a lot of departments want to hold on to some of their older equipment, and when you hold on to older equipment, then you have maintenance issues that go along with that. There's parts issue. Companies do not keep parts on the shelves like you would think, and a lot of times we have to order those. We'd be no different than a dealership, though, that was dealing with those those pieces of equipment.
Right.
But I'll be happy to share our metrics with you
Sure.
so you can see what we're doing.
I thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy, if you would send that to Rosie, she can distribute it to all of us.
I'll be happy to.
Thank you. Councilman Withers.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Director Whittemore, I apologize if I may have not heard this previously, but I do notice that your planning includes a reduction in your total staff counts, and would you mind kind of going through how your staffing is allocated within your department and where those reductions are being implemented?
Yeah, those reductions are the result of the transfer of the radio communication staff into ITS. There'll be 7 from that division. They'll be transferred, and then the other one is there's a total of 8. The other one is for the security access control that we're recommending to be transferred. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper, I still see you in the queue.
I'm just taking advantage of you being here, if you don't mind. Part of the advantages of having your office consolidating so much of the space, how many square feet are you in the design and development part of the operation for the next year or two? What's your pipeline going forward that you all are actively engaged in developing?
The two major projects that we're involved with right now, one is the CJC and the renovation, or the new CJC, and the other is the Family Justice Center that will be going out on Murfreesboro Road, and the police headquarters. So those are the two major projects that are in the hopper right now. We're also doing the expansion of the garage at the library garage. So there's an expansion where we're doing 2 additional floors there. And we're also involved with the fire department. We're doing a new training tower for them.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no one else in the queue, we thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And that concludes today's budget hearings.